Okay, sorry. Trying to take a microphone because I'm quite softly spoken, so forgive me because I don't have the ability to project my voice like a good teacher that my mother is. So I'm going to talk a little bit. I'm from Two Ridings Community Foundation, so it's my role to coordinate some of this activity. Definitely not my job to lead it, but I'm working with John, Sue, Phil, and the MCN team to facilitate the process. So Egg, that was like literally the best introduction for me. So thank you. we're going to talk now straight for 10 minutes. So as Phil said at the beginning, if you could make notes of any questions, and that just means that the recording can stay in one piece for people outside, and we'll have lots of time for questions after. So I'm going to start with a little bit of background. So Lankelly Chase have funded Two Ridings Community Foundation to deliver a participatory grant process with and for the people of York, and we'll be working in partnership with the Multiple Complex Needs Network on that piece of work. So Two Ridings Community Foundation, for those of you who don't know, is a charity that provides grants and supports to grassroots groups or people improving lives and communities in North and East Yorkshire, including Hull, including York. There we go. And it's from funds that is maintained and administered on behalf of multiple donors. Lankelly Chase is a national funder, and they don't fund projects but work to unearth and address systemic issues that perpetuate or prolong multiple and complex needs. So together with whoever signs up for this process with us, we will design and allocate a fund of £250,000 over the next 12 months for York, not Hull, sorry. We'll support York to better respond to people facing multiple issues, including homelessness, addiction and recovery, mental health and wellbeing, poverty and offending. And we'll do that by exploring and improving the systems of support that currently exist. So by getting involved, you'll be part of creating an environment of collaboration, trust, shared understanding, and together we'll design that fund that enables people with great ideas to make positive and lasting change. So we need people genuinely from all backgrounds, all experience and all knowledge or wisdom, whatever language you use, to be part of this and to be making decisions based on what really needs to be supported. So what we'll actually be doing is something called participatory grant making. So this is new to us and it may be new to you, but there are models out there. There's different people who've done this in other areas, including America and other places in the world that we can learn from and we can draw from. I'm going to share my screen. It's only images, so anything, if you can't see the images, we can share that after. You won't be missing out on loads of information. Bear with me. So, participatory grant making is both a power shifting ethos and a process that puts community at the centre. As I said, there's a number of different models for this that we can explore and pick out bits that work and we can draw from other people's learning. I'm going to talk through a couple of examples to give a bit of sense of what they may be. So one of these is a rolling collective. So this is where people who are beneficiaries of grants also become decision makers of grants. So for example, they might have received a round of grant making, and then next round you're part of the panel that decides, and it helps to build momentum on what change and share the learning from each round of grant making. Another example is community boards. So that's where the whole decision-making group is made up of community members or individuals with lived experience. So we can take little bits from each one. And there are more models, but I won't go into all of those now. So decision-making will genuinely be done together. The group who sign up will be supported and facilitated through the process, and will be supported by Two Ridings grants team. So some of the things that you might decide on could include the guidelines for the grant. So within the boundaries of exploring systemic change, but it'll be about providing clear guidance for people so that they can genuinely apply and access that money. You might decide on the thresholds that are available to apply for, so maybe up to 5,000 or whatever is decided as a group. You design the process such as how you might apply for funding, so what the application form might look like, or is it some other means of applying. We decide who gets awarded the funding, so decision making on applicants, so you might assess applications and have a decision making process to decide who is funded and awarded, and monitor and evaluation requirements of those who are awarded. How do we capture learning? How do we improve the next round? How do we learn from what's going on, and decide together how that might work. We're also really keen as this process, as it's been said already, is that this is new for everybody involved. So we're really keen to learn what it actually feels like to be part of this process. So how do we capture learning from those who are making decisions? How can we make that better for the next people or future people? Or how do we support other people to implement similar stuff? So we'll be working together to capture those decisions. And there will be some necessary processes as part of this. And Two Ridings are a well-established grant-making organisation, and things in place that make this process safe for everybody, I guess, is a good way to think of it. So things like due diligence, which is a process to make sure that money's safe and it's not lost and it's not going to unsafe places. We've got safe data management process through some of our software and some of the processes in place, so we don't have to worry about coming up with every single detail of what we might need to do. And also conflict of interest processes, so that means that people who are part of the decision making process can also be a grant recipient, so it doesn't disadvantage anybody by being part or not part of the process. We can find ways to make that fair. I think now I'm over to you, Sue, if you're ready.
Yeah, thanks, Ali, that's great. So hang on in there, take a deep breath. We're going to just go into the second half of the information now. And then in a few minutes, we'll have a comfort break and then take it over to questions. So I'm just going to explain briefly some of the nuts and bolts of the fund, and it falls briefly within three categories. So what's the structure, ways of being involved, and then some, just briefly to touch on the fact that we're opening some bursaries so that that might enable wider participation. So in terms of the structure, it's important to say that there's not going to be an application process for participation. So if you want to be involved, great, we'd love to have you involved. We've got an expression of interest form, which Ali is going to give us access to towards the end, and we're inviting people to complete that. So we've got contact details, we've got a little bit of understanding of any access needs people might have, what we need to put in place to make it possible for people to take part. But really it is there's not an assessment process, basically. You won't be interviewed. So if that makes anyone feel just slightly more comfortable, then I'm pleased I've said it. So in terms of timescale, our aim is to begin soon after Easter. So it's taken us quite a while during this foundational stage, which we feel has been really important, but now we're all really keen to get moving. And so based on the availability of people who complete the expression of interest, we're really going to try our best to find dates and times that work for as many people who want to participate as possible. Now, as many of you all know, diary setting isn't always smooth at the moment, and it may be that we can't make it work for absolutely everyone, and we just apologise for that right now. But as far as it's in our capacity to, we're going to really try and be adaptable and make diaries work if you want to be involved. And what involvement looks like is meeting up as a core cohort or a core group every 3 to 4 weeks. And we put on the flyer, and it's quite important that we say this clearly, that there is quite a significant time commitment that we're asking for people of about a day a month. So we're not saying it would be a whole day, but probably with all the longer meetings and shorter meetings put in, and then any reading or thinking you might need to do outside of it, any incidental conversations, that all together, roughly speaking, we're estimated it will take about a day a month of your time. So we just want to say on that note that if there are any accessibility requirements that anyone has, we've set aside a little or some of the money to be able to make those things happen. So if, for example, audio files work much better for you than having to read documents, grand, let us know and we'll make that possible. So that gives you an idea of some of the structure of what we're looking at. And what we've thought is that it might be helpful to outline 3 levels of engagement that we anticipate there being. So the first level is the main cohort. That's those of you who feel like you can commit about a day a month and you really want to be involved in the core group of this process. And you'll be meeting monthly, you'll be steering the whole process. And this is the group that the bursary fund applies to as well. But then there's another level, which is those of you who, for whatever reason, don't have capacity to be involved in that core group, but still want to bring some insights and wisdom in. And our intention is to hold, we don't know how many, but to meet occasionally, you know, and to offer the opportunity for people to come in on a one-off basis, to be able to bring your knowledge and experience and wisdom into the process too, but without having to make that time commitment of a day a month, because we appreciate that's quite a big ask. And then the third level is to be on our mailing list, to get intermittent updates. You're really interested in the process. It's not for you right now, but you'd like to be kept in the loop. We're really happy for you to say that that's how you'd like to be connected to the process. So the third thing I just briefly want to touch on is bursaries, which we mentioned in the flyer, which is it's intended that we'll have this bursary, which is available to support people who otherwise wouldn't be able to participate. It's not intended that everyone who comes along will need the bursary, but that for those of you for whom your financial circumstances would mean you wouldn't be able to participate without being recompensed, we want to recompense you for that. It's for the people who take part in the main cohort, so who are committed to the monthly commitment, day a month commitment, and there will be an application process for this. We're not going to get you to jump through hoops. We will operate on a trust basis, but in order for us to have a paper trail and to be transparent and accountable, we need to have an application process. But it's worth saying probably that that can be given as an honorarium or in vouchers as well, so that may help some of you to be able to access it. So I thought it might be worth saying, just as I come to the end of that bit on structure, that it might feel like a bit of an irony, because we've just outlined how we want it to be a participatory process where the people in the main group make the decisions, and then there you go, we've already made a decision, which is that there's going to be a bursary application available. So we want to just be transparent and say we couldn't work out how to do that within the process, within our timescales, in a way that would really work well. And because we want to facilitate as much participation as possible, we did make that executive decision. And I guess alongside the decision that we want to put a small part of the money aside to enable access requirements, they are two decisions that have already been made, but it is our genuine aim that from here on in, all decisions will be made within the wider participatory group, and not simply by those of us who hold some of the facilitation of the process.